I can't think of what to do.
The cannonball is this
Right in front of it.
They're looking for the cannonball.
Oh no.
Huh? I saw that's where you was walking somewhere, but I think he went to get you. I know he was. No, we don't really catch
Stretch of land with ample water. We call it San
Well, when I got
Antonio
sick,
de
I think
Valero.
that Bernie's what it looked like that.
There, he establishes a self-contained village, providing food and shelter for locals, and stocking horses and firearms for defense against raiding Comanches and Apaches. Activity at the mission lasts for more than 70 years. By 1793, the population has dramatically declined, and the need for Valero has ended. Soon after, it sits in disrepair with few occupants, but given its strategic location. Across the river from the former mission, the town of San Antonio de Valero is growing and evolving into a commercial center that sits on one of the main routes to the east. The old mission is perfectly situated to protect this important crossroads and is converted into a fortified military outpost.
There's just pressure that I said. Yeah, my sister's there, but I didn't do
Special bid.
sexual dance.
Yeah. Well, they were all
Yeah,
dressed up.
and that's what they do every day.
Yeah.
They dress up and stuff.
That's really fun. We've had the opportunity to experience that at different places, like out in Boston or like different places in Pennsylvania. Various places.
That's because, you know, a lot of people are both interested in history like that.
My name is Ted, like my name tag says. But most everybody calls me T.O. Hello, nice to meet y'all. As you get started, we do have a couple of rules. The rules are very simple. Rule number one, please don't smoke. If I see smoke, I will assume that you are on fire and I'm going to act accordingly. Rule number two, I literally do not care if you stand up and take pictures. Please refrain from continuous standing. Our bridges are undefeated against human faces. Life jackets. They're right here next to me. We're not going to use them. I don't plan on using them. I'm going to tell you why. Everybody has their joke. This is mine. Most of the people that end up in this river is for stupidity. 95% of that stupidity involves X, Y chromosome people. So you end up in this river for any reason that's not my own, just know that my only response is going to be to laugh at you. But if you should find yourself in this river, please don't panic. Most of this is only 3 to 5 feet deep. Stand up. Save yourself. Alright, so first thing we're going to talk about, I'm going to head out to our left-hand side, but look out to our right. You're going to see a statue right here. The statue is of St. Anthony, in Spanish known as San Antonio de Padua. He's the guy that our city is named after. See, the Spaniards arrived here in 1691. They arrived here on the feast day of St. Anthony on the Catholic calendar. So they decided to name the river San Antonio after him. The statue was given to us as a gift from the country of Portugal for a big event that we had in our 1968 World World's Fair. Quick question. How many of you do not know what a World's Fair is? Okay, cool. I'm glad you to be honest, because I want you to know, because they still have them, but not as much as they used to do in the past. It used to be like the Olympics. They used to have them like every 5 years or so, and they'd have them all over the world. So it'd just be a big event like the Olympics, where people would show up to some part of the world, and people would show off the culture of that region, and then other places would have like little expo halls. We had one here in San Antonio in 1968 called Hemisphere, that actually put San Antonio on the map in the 20th century. We're going to talk about that a couple times during the tour, but know that that was a canon event for us. Now, if you look over here to our right-hand side, along the tree line level, you're going to see a church by St. Joseph's Catholic Church. Built in 1868, was the first church taken after the Battle of the Alamo. It was constructed by the German immigrant community that was here, so that they could have a place to worship in their own language. And that tradition continues today. They have services in German, English, and Spanish to this day. And every fourth Sunday, they have an all-German singing choir. Now, if you want to find that church, it's not difficult. It's literally surrounded by the mall. They wanted to build the mall, they wanted the church property. The church said thanks and no thanks. They ended up building around it. Fun fact, they accidentally built on part of their property line. So every couple of years they have to write a check for being on their property. Over here to our right-hand side, along the bridge here, to the right corner, you're going to see an orange sculpture. A sculpture is the torch of friendship. Spanish torch de amistad. It's given to us as a gift from business leaders of Mexico to the city of San Antonio. Now, people always ask from time to time, why did you get a gift from business leaders and not from the country of Mexico? Well, here's the thing. Many people don't realize this, but tourism isn't our big thing. Right? And it's a big thing. It's a thing over here, right? We have a Riverwalk, you often see it. But it's not even in our top 3. Big thing that San Antonio is known for in other circles is trade and manufacturing. People don't realize this, but San Antonio is the first major city that you run into coming north of the border. We have railways that link us directly to Monterrey, Mexico. And if you're familiar with our region, our major highway is I-35. I-35 goes from Texas all the way up north to the Canadian border. And I-35 goes south straight into Mexico. So we're actually big trucks as well. All right. Now if you look over here to our left-hand side as we come out from underneath this bridge and back onto the natural course of the river. I know you thought the river naturally went to the mall. But if you look up here to the left, you're going to see the Hilton Palacio del Rio. Talking about this hotel is actually one of my favorite stories to tell in downtown San Antonio, and not just on the tour. You see that building is the Guinness Book of World Records as the fastest constructed building of its size. 21 stories tall, 500 rooms. It was built in 202 working days. Real time, they built this hotel in just 7 months. Now, the reason that they built this hotel so fast, Hemisphere 68, that World's Fair. You see, in 1967, y'all, we had a problem. The guys that were supposed to be building us a flagship hotel had not started. But there was a man here by the name of H.B. Zachary. He went to the city and he said, look, he said, I can build you a hotel, I can build it on time, and I can build it under budget. And if I don't do what I say I'm going to do, I'll sell you this hotel for $1. See, he was like, cool. That's a win-win for us, but I didn't plan to make that magic happen. And what he did was, he built the first 4 floors right here on site in a regular fashion. Now look up. You see how the rooms look exactly the same? And they alternate? That's because they're exactly the same and they alternate for a reason. You see, while they were doing this here, first 4 floors, elevator shafts like an upside down T in the middle. You got a factory south of downtown where they manufacture every single one of these rooms. Every room was self-contained. Every room had the plumbing, the electric, and the furniture already installed. Sofas are the soap dish, drapes are on the windows, little Gideon Bibles were in every single dresser. So they brought this hotel in room by room on flatbed trucks with cranes, helicopters. They stacked the hotel like Legos. It was finished 2 days before the start of the World's Fair in 1968. It's a very good thing too because this hotel, it was completely booked before they started building it. Now, why do they alternate? 2 reasons. So as they were putting in one room and the other room, they can be working on rooms at the exact same time. Second, this is also the first example of privacy rooms in the United States. Fun fact, they were designed so that everybody has the same view, but you can't see what was happening to the sides above or below. Look to the left. There's people. I said there are people right there. Look to the left. Alright, so here on our left-hand side, this whole area on our left is called La Villita, the little village of Spanish. That's where Spanish soldiers and their families first started settling after the discovery of the river in 1691. Now, remember that German church I told you about? The Germans started arriving here in the early 1850s and started making this area their home. Today it is home to shops, restaurants, and artist galleries. Now, the crown jewel of La Villita is this open-air theater that we're coming to. This is called the Artisan. It opened in 1941. It was the centerpiece of our flood control and river beautification project. Now, you see, the Riverwalk actually exists because of a problem that we used to have with flooding. Then we started putting in flood control, which brought us eventually the Riverwalk. When it was completed with its open-air theater so people would come downtown and enjoy the river. Seated for 800 people to the left. To the right, that's a stage. How many of you have seen the movie Miss Congeniality? Yeah, awesome. Remember the Simpson competition? That was filmed here. Now, as we look at the center of the stage, you can see 5 bells. Those 5 bells are dedicated to the first 5 Taco Bells that were opened in this area.
Funny.
Not planned. Those 5 bells are actually dedicated to the 5 missions of San Antonio. The center bell is dedicated to Alamo and has the name of the guy who designed the Riverwalk. One man designed all this. His name was Robert H.H. Huggley. From the sidewalks, the benches, the fountains, everything, the idea of one man. Now, coming up on our right-hand side, you can see a bronze sculpture of a cowboy. It's in front of the Briscoe Western Art Museum. The Briscoe opened up in 2012. Now, myself personally, I don't love this museum for its art. Not that the art is bad, it's just Western art is not my preference. It's just a me thing, right? But I love this museum because when we built it with the idea, the mission, to have a museum that told the story of the West the right way. Not just here in Texas, but of the region. So you won't see any like romanticism from a John Wayne movie, no Little House on the Prairie kind of business. We actually have interactive exhibits that show you what life was like out here. We have stories that tell about the Native Americans over here, the Spaniards that discovered the Native Americans when they arrived in this region, how the West was won, Mexican Empire, a lot of cool stuff. Now coming up on our right hand side, you're going to see a diamond sculpture. The sculpture is called Father Massenet's Table. It was dedicated in 1991. The same for the priest who gave the first mass on these waters in 1691. Now it sits on what is known to us here as Marriage Island, because on average, one wedding a day happens right over here. During the spring and fall months when the weather is really favorable, it's not unusual to see 5 or more weddings happening there on a weekend day. Now me, I love seeing weddings on the boat. Reason? Because inevitably, there's a young couple on the boat, and the young lady looks at her partner and she's like, "Oh honey, look those people getting married. Isn't that so cute? And look at me, ring finger empty." And the partner's all like, "Oh, weddings, yeah, those are cool. Those are cool, I guess." There's always an old couple on my boat who's been in the trenches with each other, battle tested, and they're looking at the hope of that young couple on the island, and in their eyes are just like, "Don't do it." Now in front of us, brick building with green tile on top, that's our courthouse. Opened in 1897, it is the longest continuously running courthouse in the state of Texas, and one of the oldest as well. But it pales in comparison to my favorite building. It's on our left-hand side. This is the Tower Life Insurance Company building. It opened up in 1929 as the Smith Young Tower, and it's built in a neo-Gothic architecture style. Now the owners were superstitious. So they added gargoyles to the very top of the building. You can see them coming off the corners. Those gargoyles are said to ward off evil spirits. Now watch out to look at the second story windows. Directly underneath the second story windows, you can see some faces. Those faces are called grotesque. Grotesque are said to ward off bad luck and bad business. It did not work out. Those guys opened up in June of 1929. A couple months later, the American stock market crashed. Great Depression ensued. They lost everything. That building, y'all, was built for $3 million of their dollars back then, and ended up being sold at bankruptcy auction a couple years later for $320,000. Taxes. But the reason I really like this building, besides that story, as you come out from underneath the bridge, look behind the boat, back over my left shoulder, back at the Tower of Life, and you're going to notice that this building looks like a tall ship, a big boat. This was done by design to make this building look like it was entering the waters of the San Antonio River. Now, remember, I told you about the Torch of Friendship and us being a center of trade? Over here to our right-hand side is the International Center, home to the trade offices of Canada, Mexico, United States, Korea, Japan, European delegations here too, as well as some other Southeastern nations. Also, that's my marina right there. Alright, so now we're going to talk about why the Riverwalk exists. First off, I want to talk about our flood control. Look to our left and right-hand sides by me. You're going to see some scrapings along the wall. The scrapings indicate the presence of floodgate number 4. It comes up out of the water like a drawbridge. Look to our left, downriver, as I bring the boat about. You're going to see where the river looks like it disappears on the horizon. That's where floodgate number 5 is. Now where we were, right over there, 3 to 5 feet deep, like I said in the beginning. Where we are right now, this is 18 feet deep. From the floodgate behind us to the next floodgate. So what happens is we have 2 floodgates that seal off the horseshoe shape, the natural shape of the San Antonio River. Flood control channel allows us to divert the river through here to take care of the downtown area, any part of the river that goes to the main part of San Antonio and the central district, and also to take the floodwaters and rainwaters from the street. If you look to our left, you see some holes in the wall. Now the reason all this exists is we had a flood in 1921. Considering it flooded before, but in 1921 we had a flood where 14 inches of rain fell in the city. The river started to rise, and in 4 hours the river went from here to 10 feet above street level. It killed 52 people officially. Unofficially, we know close to 200 people died. Well, sorry, they went missing because we didn't have bodies to recover. So at that point, the city wanted better water management. Originally, they were just going to straighten out the river and fill in the horseshoe. But Conservation Society stepped in, led by Rick McAfee and Emily Edwards, and they forced the city to get an architect. Robert Hudson went out because he was the only person that had the idea to develop this area. Flood control plus beautification. He thought of it as his American Venice, while everybody else just wanted to fill it in. And a couple people actually wanted to make this part of the sewer. Yay, Robert Hudson. Continue to our left. You're going to see some stairs. Follow these stairs up to the clearing and to the left. You're going to see San Fernando Cathedral. San Fernando is one of the oldest cathedrals, is one of the oldest churches in the United States and the oldest cathedral as well. It is still an active cathedral. You can go visit it during regular business hours, and they still have services there as well. Now we're going to exit back onto the natural course of the river. As we do this, I want to point out a couple of things. First off, the river continues naturally to our left. 2 miles going up that way is the end of the Riverwalk. Another just about a mile is the source of the San Antonio River. At the end of the Riverwalk is an area called the Pearl. So if you're visiting us, you're looking for something to do. It used to be a brewery up there. We turned it into a park when the brewery moved. So it's got shops, local restaurants, that kind of thing. Really cool. You can walk up there. It only takes like 30 minutes if you're gonna walk. Now we're coming underneath floodgate number 3. Floodgate number 3 comes down like a guillotine or like a garage door. setting off the horseshoe from the flood channel. Now, one last thing about the infrastructure of the flood channel and the Riverwalk. I want to keep y'all from getting lost because y'all like to wander and don't like to ask questions. The Riverwalk is 13 miles long, y'all. Infrastructure going past Floodgate 5 goes 8 miles. All the missions in San Antonio, the 5 missions, including the Alamo, were built along the river. So when they built the Riverwalk and subsequent expansions, we infrastructured the entire thing. So if you decide to hike, you can hike along the river to all the missions. We also have bike shares, so if you want to bike it, it's cool too. To our right, that's the Esquire, longest wooden bar in the state of Texas. Their main claim to fame is it was the first bar opened after Prohibition ended. To our left, I'm going to give you an idea of how high the river flooded. If you look to our left, you see the chandeliers up there and the tall windows. That was the height of the river during the flood in 1921. And what was even worse, that was our electric company. City Public Services was in that building when it flooded. And we were underwater for like a week. Just to give you an idea, we just had a recent rain event. Unfortunately, we saw what happened in West Virginia, North Carolina. It was that kind of a rain event here, but without all the rescue helicopters. All right, y'all, so for this next little stretch, I'm going to talk about 4 buildings in succession. Individually, they have nothing to do with each other, but they're tied together by this thing that we have in our city called adaptive reuse. Adaptive reuse is just a fancy way of saying that we don't like tearing down our old buildings. We use them for new things. It helps us preserve our culture and our historical heritage. So first thing we're going to talk about is over here to our right-hand side, is the Aztec Movie Theater. Aztec opened up in 1926 as a silent movie house, featuring an original Warlords of Oregon Indian theme as its core. You can see the Indian head right up top. They closed in the 1970s, was closed for about 10, 12 years. But then, we restored the building to its original condition like it was in 1926. Turned it into a concert venue, beautiful on the inside. Continuing on our right-hand side, that's the Bocara Hotel, 5-star hotel on the Riverwalk. It started off as the Elk Point Salvage Company from 1901 to 1923. That company's claim to fame, historically speaking, is they were the largest producers of saddles and leather goods in the world. They were the main suppliers of leather goods to the Allied forces during World War I. And fun fact, 2 people who should have been enemies, Pancho Villa and Teddy Roosevelt, both had saddles from that company. How many of y'all seen the movie Selena? This is the Selena Bridge. So it's just known as Husband's Bridge. It was dedicated to Robert Husband, the guy who designed the Riverwalk. Now, third building on our left-hand side, this is La Mansion. La Mansion opened up as the St. Mary's School for Boys in 1853, and later on became a college and a law school. Now, they moved to a larger campus in the 1960s, and one of their former law students actually ended up buying the building. This building ended up becoming one of the flagship hotels for Hemisphere 68. The last building I'm going to talk about that has to do with adaptive reuse is actually a really cool building. People like to take pictures of it. So if you have your cameras or cell phones, whatever you got, point them out to the front left corner of the front left-hand side of the boat. If you don't have any of those devices, look to our front left corner. Let's come out from underneath this bridge, look left and up. This building's going to look like a very tall, flat, freestanding wall. States for one of the first air-conditioned buildings in the U.S. They closed as a hospital in 2019, but we are turning that into mixed-use commercial and residential. That'll be dope. Should be done in about 5 years. Now in front of us, this tall hotel. It's a Hyatt Regency hotel. It has absolutely, positively no historical value whatsoever. But the reason we got to talk about it is because they built a hotel in front of the Alamo. So let's talk about it. Remember how I told you all the missions are built along the river? The Alamo is no exception, except for one thing. Not many people know this, unless you're into history like myself. But where the Alamo sits right now is its third location. The Spaniards moved the Alamo 3 times because of the issue that was flooded. So it's pushed back further away from the river than the other missions. Well, the land in front of it ended up becoming private property. They wanted to build this hotel. The problem was, the original height of this hotel was going to cast a full shadow on the Alamo at sunset. So instead, we just made the building really wide. The other thing, they were going to separate the Alamo from its river. We didn't have that either. So we made the building passageway underneath. So if you want to make it to the Alamo from here, just find this hotel, walk through right there, and it'll take you directly to the Alamo. Now coming up on our right-hand side is the Casino Club building. Casino Club opened up in 1927 as a social club for the German business community that was here. Many people don't realize that the San Antonio was home to such a large German-speaking population that at one point German, not Spanish, was the #2 spoken language in our city. But I'm glad the Germans came. They brought beer. On tour one time, the lady got off my boat. She was furious. She was like, "That's not true. Why are you lying to the people?" I'm like, "What lie did I tell?" She's like, "Mexicans have Dos Equis. We invented it." I'm like, "You know Germans lived in Mexico, right? This is a historical fact." I was like, "But don't go away offended or mad or angry. The Mexicans did bring something to the table that goes well with Dos Equis." And she's like, "You're gonna say tortillas, aren't you?" I was like, "No." And you're kind of wrong for that. I said tequila. Alright, this is the River Square, Restaurant Road, most densely populated area as far as restaurants go. All these restaurants have the ability to have dinner on a boat. You go to our website at Go Rio Cruises, find out about that. Alright, now coming up on our right hand side, I would say normally look up above the Texas umbrellas, but they don't have umbrellas today. So just look on that balcony right there. You're going to see a name, R.H.H. Hugman. If you look down here on the river level by the stairs, you can see a bust of a man. That's the architect of the Riverwalk, Robert Hugman. This way he had his offices in 1941 after the Riverwalk's institution. He put his offices here to show people that he had faith in the flood control system that he had designed. But it was not until 1946 in Casa Rio, to our right-hand side of their doors. Casa Rio is the oldest restaurant on the Riverwalk. They're the first restaurant to offer riverside dining. They're also the first company to put boats on the water. The first boats that were out here were gondola boats. But little did they know, putting boats on the river would change their lives drastically forever. Here's what's up. Riverwalk opened. 5 years later, we had the restaurant down here. And of course there's water, so you should probably have boats, right? It's a no-brainer. It's like living on a lake house and like, oh no, I don't have a boat. So what they would do is 2 things. They would sell boat rides. One of the other coolest things is if they were on a wait, they would give people a little tour of the river, so when they came back, their table would be ready. Complimentary. Well, in the 1960s, we had a problem, y'all. Hemisphere was supposed to be happening. At that time, we were expecting 3 million people to come here, and we did not have an efficient way to move 3 million people from the natural river here to Hemisphere Park where the World's Fair was being held. Well, one of the engineers said, "Hey, the river's right here, we could dig a canal, we could connect the two." City was like, "Cool, well, where do you want to put this canal?" He's like, "Well, those guys have boats right there, why don't we just put it right there?" And that's what they did. So just imagine, y'all, getting up in the morning from your flagship hotel, and there is a boat out there to tour you around the river. And then you come to Casa Rio, have some dinner, And then there's a shuttle boat that takes you directly to Hemisphere Park. You ain't got to walk. It takes you back and forth. And pre-internet days, y'all. So people didn't know this existed when we did it. They were pleasantly surprised. So they went back and they told their friends. And their friends kept on coming back. And thanks to them, people like yourselves made the San Antonio Riverwalk the number 2 most visited tourist attraction in all of Texas. Only surpassed by the Alamo right across the street. But did y'all know that this Riverwalk has spawned other Riverwalks around the world? For example, if you've ever been to Mexico, Monterrey, they have a Riverwalk, Paseo Santa Lucia. It's based on this. I've been there, it's very pretty. Oklahoma City, Bricktown, they literally copied this Riverwalk. Tampa has a river. They saw what we did and they're like, oh, we're gonna try to do that too. This guy. And they have some across the world. Some people that came for the World's Fair saw this and took it back to their home countries and did the same thing.
Hello, everybody. Having fun? Woohoo!
All right, now coming up on our right-hand side, up along the tree line level, you see the Tribe of the Americas. Tribe of the Americas opened up as a centerpiece of the 1968 World's Fair. It has a rotating restaurant on top as well as an observation deck where you can see all the metropolitan San Antonio. At 750 feet, it is the second tallest freestanding tower in the United States. The tallest one is the Stratosphere in Las Vegas, Nevada, which is over 1,100 feet tall. Now, many times people ask me about the Seattle Space Needle in relation to the Tribe of the Americas. Seattle Space Needle is shorter. It's shorter because it's older. See, at some point in that past, Seattle actually had a mini World's Fair. It was a regional one. So they built the tower. So we had our big World's Fair. We saw that tower and we said, everything's bigger in Texas. So we built ours almost exactly 100 feet taller than the Seattle Space Needle. Now we're going to make a left-hand turn. We're going to slowly start heading back to where we started. Before I make this turn, I do want to point out 2 things. Don't think that you're missing out on anything by us not going over there, because you'll see some boats go that way and I'm going this way. That's just our convention center. We start here and we can't have like 1,000 boats coming in here. It's something that we did during Christmas because every boat captain was on this river every single day. We have 45 boats in the fleet. So, convention center. All right. Now, if you look up into our right, you can see a sculpture. A sculpture is called Stargazer. It's done by a Mexican artist. I actually like that sculpture because it's made out of volcanic stone. I've actually never seen that before in my adult life, so it's cool. Now, she's looking through a star, and people will ask, is there any symbolism to her looking through the star? What does it mean? Everybody has an opinion. Nobody has a real answer. But my answer is always, she's looking for the Dallas Cowboys' chances of having a winning playoff season. It's been 20 long years. One guy got really mad when I told that joke. He said, what are you trying to talk about Cowboys this way? But he had his kid with him, and at the time his kid was 15. And I said, sir, you realize your son has never seen the Cowboys win a playoff, like, divisional championship, right? It's time to bring generational. Alright, we're passed by the location where we started. Before I talk about them all, I want to point out this boat. So all our boats have different designs on them. Mine is the Peace boat. This one over here to our right hand side is our military boat. Now why do we have a military boat? Many people don't know this, but in military circles, we're known as Military City, USA. We have 5 bases here. Used to be 4. We both went in the realignment. But we have a training base, which is Lackland, by the way. If you see a young cadet walking around, be mindful. Thank them for their service, of course. But if you see them walking around, it's like the one day they get with their family. Because at the training base, they get 1 day off the base, and then they take them back to base, and then they immediately ship out to their assignments the next couple days afterwards. We have Randolph, which is a tactical wing. Fort Sam Houston, which is an Army base, Army hospital base. So all the surgeons, specialists in the military come here to train out of Fort Sam. Winter Warrior Project is also out of here. And we also have Marine Outpost, Camp Willis. Alright, so the last thing we're going to talk about, y'all, is our mall. The mall opened up in 1988, sits on 10 acres of land with over 1 million square feet of shopping for your enjoyment. Has over 125 stores and a massive food court. 3 places to get pizza, 4 places to get ice cream. Currently the food court is closed because they're revamping the food court. It's going to be a destination food court called Mexican City. But before they could build this mall, they had a problem. You see, there's a hotel right up there called the Marriott coming around our corner, and they wanted to build that hotel so it would be right across the street from the convention center. It would be connected to the mall. The problem was, on that site was another building called the Fairmont. Now, the Fairmont had been open since 1906 and it was historic and it could not be torn down. So in 1985, they decided to move the Fairmont to make way for the Marriott. Well, this is what they did in 1984. They took 36 specially designed dollies and put it underneath the Fairmont Hotel. They raised that building up off the ground with hundreds of pneumatic air-filled tires. They moved that building 6 blocks over the course of 6 days at the rate of 0.04 miles an hour. Y'all, watching that hotel get moved was as exciting as watching paint dry. Well, it finished this move and went down to the Guinness Book of World Records as the heaviest building ever moved on wheels and the largest buildings ever moved in cities. And y'all, on that note, that is our time together. Please take a moment before the boat. Make sure you have your stuff. Please don't leave anything behind. If you do, don't worry. There's a website to collect your belongings. It is ebay.com. Please remain seated until I tell you otherwise. That's for everybody's personal safety. Once out the boat security between exit. Now, if you've enjoyed your tour, once again, my name is Ted. Like I said, my friends do call me T.O. Please tell the company about me. For a job well done, our drivers are allowed to accept and do appreciate your tips. And the box is also count down from Venmo if that's something you want to do. So hang tight, relax, and I'll let you know when it's safe.